Thank you for staying with us. This is Journalist Hangout on Sunday, and I still have Babajide Kolade, Titoju, and Bola Tinubu in the studio. President Bola Tinubu has disclosed a plan by the federal government to transfer 8,000 naira to 12 million poor households in Nigeria for a period of 6 months. This was contained in a letter the president wrote to the House of Representatives regarding the $800 million loan request of the Buhari administration for the Social Safety Net program. According to the president, the money transfer to poor households would have a multiplier effect on about 60 million individuals. For credibility, the president said the money would be transferred to the household digitally. Jimmy, this conditional transfer money scheme, and was told that it's like a legislation that was passed into law by the
it's one of the
Buhari administration.
Yes, it's one of the last set of laws that the administration came up with. There was someone that I told who is based abroad. I said, this is President Buhari already made this thing a law. He said, no, that's not true. This is new, coming from this government. I then forwarded the story. On the day, President Buhari, I forwarded it to him. And I said, wow, why should Asiwaju continue this? What we should be telling ourselves, the law is there already. What we should be advising our government to do is, come, you can still do this, devoting this quantum of money to something that will not, in my view, lead to greater production. It's not what we want to see. Of course, America during COVID made cash transfers to its people because a lot of them were trapped in their houses. They couldn't produce. That's a situation that is different. When I give a household 8,000 naira in a month. What production can that lead to? There are those who have argued that, look, government can support small-scale enterprises, for example, give people 1 million naira each, and those people will be able to provide employment to at least 3 or 4 persons.
You don't forget that government is not even referring to people of our status, the poorest of the poor. That will be the people government will be attending to.
Even at that, that is, we're talking of 96 naira per day for feeding. Is it practicable? Assuming, in this household, these are the number of people there. Whichever way you look at it, 96 naira per day for feeding.
No, it can't buy anything.
Because 8,000 naira in a whole month. Look at the transport cost. For me, if we can't do what has been suggested, that empower small and medium scales, empower like even 1 million of them.
It used to be 5,000 naira.
Empower 1 million of them, for example, they will be able to stimulate production. They will be able to employ maybe 3 or more persons, and that will also help us, help the economy. But I don't see how, because if boosting the economy is our goal, I don't see how this can help. This kind of conditional cash transfer, in my view, cannot lead to a greater production and real economic growth. People are saying even that vehicle, if the goal is to mitigate the pains that removal of subsidy has caused, why not buy vehicles? For example, some are saying 60-seater, 8,060-seater buses at 30 million each. You share those buses. Even at senatorial level, you share those buses. And don't stop at that. Convert those buses to CNG, that is compressed natural gas, is by far very cheap. We will be able to bring down the cost of transportation. One of the biggest pains that our people are going through as a result of the removal of subsidy is the high transport cost. And those who travel to the village, to our town, they pay 10,000 naira per head. This is something that they were not paying more than 2,000, 2005 before, jumping to 10,000 per person. And I can warn Nigerians that we've not seen the worst too. Yeah. Because now, if petrol price or if oil prices go to like $100 per barrel, the current price in our country will not be sustainable. It will go higher. So, in my view, let's mitigate the pain through transportation costs, and we can do that by bringing in those vehicles, you know, so that our people can move around freely.
Bolaji, some people will argue that it's not only Nigeria who have a scheme like this, that even some developing nations and some developed nations, they have something like this. But some other people will say that it's just like a little drop of water in the ocean.
Yeah. See, I have a really different view to the entire situation. And my view is that I think those who have spoken against this palliative, they are just taking an aspect of the totality of what the government is doing. The first thing we should notice take note of is the fact that the government declared a state of emergency on food security. A state of emergency. Now, a few days after, the presidential spokesman, came out and he spoke extensively about the plan of government to tackle this problem. For the first thing they said was that they are going to, food and water issues will come under the National Security Council purview. That it is an issue that must be discussed whenever they are having a meeting, so that quick decision will be made. I think it's a major step. Secondly, they said, in what he said they are going to revamp the agric sector by pumping savings from subsidy removal. That's another step they are taking. They are going to release fertilizers and grains to farmers and households. Then he also said there's going to be a synergy between Ministry of Agric and Water Resources to ensure all-year irrigation, so that there won't be all this seasonal planting of crops that, okay, this period we only have tomatoes, by the next few, we won't have because the rain is not there, or we have maize at this period. It's going to be an all-year round planting season, which is a very good thing. You see, we shouldn't take the aspect of giving money alone. It is a totality. Solution. Yeah, it is a totality or a total package the government has given. That aspect of the 8,000 per just a palliative, just a temporary thing. The government could have just decided not to even do anything about it. And nobody will say anything. 500. Yeah, it's a lot of money, I know. But the fact is that there are other things that have been stated to be done by the government just to ease the suffering of Nigerians. Okay, I think we need more enlightenment on this. Joining us to shed more light on the proposed rescue plan by the federal government is an economist, Kelvin Emmanuel. Thank you for joining us, Kelvin.
Thank you so much for having me. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
What do you make of this proposed scheme, Kelvin?
Well, I'm very straightforward with you. The past president spent over 2 trillion naira social investment programs. In 8 years, per capita income of Nigeria has dropped by 50%. So the question you have to ask yourself, because I like to look at data, because data always tells you the story. What's been the impact of the social investment program, especially the conditional cash transfer, on Nigerians? No impact. In fact, the impact has been negative, because if you look at the 500 billion naira they want to spend, let's go back to how they got the money they want to spend. The past Minister of Finance applied for a loan at the World Bank, $800 million. And that loan, for you to get the loan, you have to place a collateral. How did they get the collateral? They basically used like Nigeria's and SDI basket, 17.1% of it, as a collateral at the IMF to place with the World Bank, International Development Association, IDA, to get the loan. So you stake 17.5% of Nigeria's special borrowing rights at the IMF with the World Bank to get the loan. And then we're going to use it to subsidize consumption, not production.
Yeah.
What are the two major baskets for calculating inflation in Nigeria? Food and energy. Okay, food prices are high, energy prices are high. And all of them, the energy in fact affects food prices too. How do you subsidize Nigerians? You look at systemic layers for decoupling the acceleration of inflation in Nigeria. If you put that 500 billion into building cargo rail lines, horizontal rail lines in Nigeria, because there are vertical rail lines, there are no horizontal rail lines, which is the reason why trucks, haulage trucks, step in and they place so much pressure on the roads that Nigeria has, and the lifespan of a road that is constructed, a federal frontier road, doesn't last for long. And you see that the prices of diesel are sending the prices of haulage across states, interstate haulage, over the roof, which affects the price of food. So if, for example, a family has been buying a bag of garri for 28,000, 100 kg bag of garri for 28,000, for example, and because of the price of diesel, because of the price of fuel, that bag has gone to maybe 50 or 55,000 per 100 kg. What do you rather subsidize? You subsidize them by giving them 8,000 naira per month, which is about $10 US. Yeah? As against putting it into the levers, you need to decouple the prices of the things they buy with the money. Subsidize production, don't subsidize consumption. Like one of the speakers said, you can also focus on using propane and ethylene gas, C2 and C3, and compressed natural gas in gas engine buses to replace fuel buses. The price of gas, propane, ethylene, and compressed natural gas is somewhere around maybe 31% of the price of fuel. For me, these are more sustainable ways to provide subsidy, considering that the money was not gifted to you by the World Bank. It was not a grant. $800 million was a loan with a 3-year moratorium. They won't start paying interest until 2026. It's better for you to subsidize production than subsidize consumption. And I'll just add to you, listen, this culture of conditional cash transfer, social investment programs has contributed, but not in full, to the fact that under the past president, for example, the Central Bank of Nigeria and its direct intervention programs that totals about 8 trillion, they have over 50% employment. I mean, it was the same central bank that sacked the board of a bank and the board of the holding company of that same bank for having a regulatory forbearance of 750 billion and having a non-performing loan ratio of 28%, which was the highest in the banking industry a few years ago. So how come the central bank is violating its own rule on having non-performing loan ratio for the banking sector regulates at between 4.8 and 5.6%? So in my view is, these programs are, for me, like signals to pander to a political base. They are not effective. They will never be effective. And bringing the US as an example, every time that statement comes up, the US give conditional cash transfer, I always remind people who say that, look, the US generated $4.5 trillion from the Internal Revenue Service for government revenues in 2022. $4.5 trillion. Their budget for aid is $41 billion. Their budget for aid is equal to Nigeria's budget for 2023. So the US cannot be an example and a measure for comparing conditional cash transfer. The second question is, how much of their budget are they giving to conditional cash transfer as compared to Nigeria? These are the questions we need to ask ourselves. So in my view, I'll tell you very practically and direct that conditional cash transfers don't work. There is a lazy solution to a very complex and difficult problem.
Now, the question I want to ask is also related to some of what I hear people say. Does this conditional cash transfer, does it help to ameliorate poverty? Does it slow down inflation? What really does it do?
12 million households.
Conditional cash transfer does not affect, does not reduce inflation, and it doesn't impact on poverty. Like I said, the reason is because when you want to solve the problem of lack, and when you want to solve the problem of demand destruction from the prices of things skyrocketing faster than the GDP rate, you don't focus on subsidizing consumption, you focus on subsidizing production. Okay? I give the example of, look, if the prices of food is accelerating, you don't give people money and say, oh, it's going to help you to lift the burden. What you do is you focus on slowing down the acceleration of the price of food. That's the role of the government. And how do you do that? You focus on, for example, one of the speakers talked about the fact that I like that part of the plan where the government has moved, and this is something I've always said for the past several years, move food security, food supply into the National Security Council. Food supply is a national security issue. If an enemy wants to attack a country, the first thing they target is food supply. When Russia was going to attack Ukraine, Russia targeted the grain farms of Ukraine, the fertilizer plants of Ukraine, because he knew that if he could damage the sources of food for Ukraine, Ukraine will be crippled. Okay? He targeted power, he targeted food. So food supply is a national security issue. I like the fact that, look, they're going to, they said they're going to have Nigerian Agricultural Land Development Agency open 500,000 hectares of land. I keep saying it, that listen, land development is a major cost. It costs about 250,000 naira today to open 1 hectare of land. How many smallholder farmers that probably farm a total of 1 hectare per farming season, which is per year, can afford 250,000 naira to open, to pay for diesel, to pay for tractor, to pay for labor? 99% of it, or 95% of them can't afford it. So that is a good initiative. Also, the fact that he is talking about providing fertilizer, although I believe the presidential fertilizer initiative which the past president had didn't work, and providing like a ceiling for fertilizer prices and then the government paying the difference on the upside, it's not sustainable. The solution to the problem, listen, the solution to the problem are institutional and they are systemic. And I'll tell you what, for you to blend NPK, you need nitrogen, you need phosphorus, you need potassium. Nigeria has ammonium nitrate gas, which is nitrogen. It doesn't have phosphorus, it doesn't have potassium. Potassium and phosphorus are imported. And the reason why fertilizer prices went from 11,500 to about 28,000 naira per bag was because of the war in Ukraine. And because Ukraine and Russia, for example, together contributes about 45% of the global supply of potassium, or muriate of potash. So that affected the supply chain and raised prices up. The pressure was on Canada, which is the third major supplier of potash around the world. And Canada couldn't step up to meet up with the supply. Hence, the increase in the prices of NPK. If you want to bring down the prices of food, you have to focus on land development, you have to focus on fertilizer, you have to focus on the seeds, yeah? And the government has the power to do it. There are minerals in Nigeria, there are mines in Nigeria that if you explore can actually produce phosphorus and potassium. But, some minerals is still under Schedule 39 of the exclusive legislative list. This brings me back to the question. Because so far, I tell you, I am cautiously optimistic and I'm impressed with the progress the president has made in the last 1.5 months. But I'm cautiously optimistic. It brings me back to the question of,
if you are to advise the federal government of Nigeria now, since the removal of fuel subsidy, and a lot of people are feeling the impact economically, what would you have opted that this government would have put in place as a kind of...
If I was to advise the president, I would advise him to focus on energy and food. Focus on energy and food. Provide buses. Provide, on the short term, within the next 6 months, provide gas buses. Gas buses are cheaper. Build a bus rapid transportation system like you have in Lagos. across major cities in Nigeria. Use the Lagos BRT model and replicate it. If the president is now the president of Nigeria, it's from Lagos is the president of Nigeria. Replicate that BRT model, but let the model be on gas. Because even the management, Lamata, I'm sure, is complaining about the prices of diesel, and they started pilots to switch to electricity and to gas. Focus on gas, right? And then create a system where everybody above the ages of 60 and below the ages of 18, they have like a card, which the BRT model has, that is connected to their national identification number NIN. And where, as soon as you come into the bus and you swipe your card, the system confirms that you're either 60 and above or 18 and below, and you don't pay for transportation. On the other side of food, focus on invoice factoring and give mechanization, give farm inputs. Now that food supply is now a national security issue, the Air Force, the Army, the Navy will be able to coordinate on the ground to ensure that farmlands are secured. Focus on developing the river basins, the 12 river basins you have, into irrigation clusters to provide water, especially in the north central, in the northwest, and in the northeast. If you increase the production of food, Nigeria needs 5 million metric tons of rice paddy. It needs 7 million metric tons of maize. You need 5 million metric tons of wheat. You need about 1.6 million metric tons of sugar. Yeah, if you focus on these 4 areas and you do backward integration and you begin to build, you'll see that the shock on prices of food will start to slow and inflation will start to come down. That's how you solve the problem, not by taking out half a trillion naira of scarce resources that the government is fighting to get to dole out on conditional cash transfer basis. It doesn't work. It's trickle-down economics that has been proven over time in several parts of the world to be a failure. It doesn't work.
What do we do now that the law is there? There is a law that
The National Assembly that
kind of validates.
The president has the powers. He's the president. That's why he's the president. He has the powers to amend the law. That's why he's the president. He can simply send his special advisor on National Assembly matters and the ministers or special advisors who are in charge to draft legislation and call the leadership of National Assembly to a meeting and chart a direction. That's why he's the president. Amend the law.
But excuse me, would you really accept the fact that government should just stop giving that 8,000 to people? That they shouldn't give that 8,000 to people? Because when you look at holistically, when you look at the plan of the federal government, it's an holistic thing, which I mentioned earlier. They are going to have a synergy between the Ministry of Agriculture and Water Resources. They are going to have a commodity board to stabilize food prices and maintain food reserve stability. They are going to engage security to protect farmlands so that people can go to the farm. They are going to clear forests so that people can have enough arable lands to farm. So many different things. So we are only picking and asking.
Why don't you put that money instead into this plan? Look, Nigeria has 77 trillion naira, $171 billion in debt. Yeah? Nigeria has a deficit in 2023 Appropriation Act of about 43.8%. Okay?
Yeah.
You have maturing principal coming up of debt you have to pay or you have to refinance. Yeah? Nigeria has a debt servicing in 2023 budget of about 29%. Yeah? It has a government revenue to like debt servicing, to government revenue ratio of like 6%. How do you advise the government to spend half a trillion naira when you have all these indices staring you in the face on doling out 8,000 naira to 12 million Nigerians? By the way, the 15.7 people on the National Social Register should be audited. Should be audited to confirm that the 15.7 million people are actual human beings that can be verified by their National Identification Number System, NIN. They should be audited to confirm that those people, they are not ghost people on that records and register, and they are not people who are going to benefit from it illegally. Yeah. So for me, I think, look, you have a scale of preference, you have priorities, and focusing on production instead of consumption, and realizing that you don't have the money to spend or to waste is actually critical to guiding the government into making decisions on how it spends very scarce resources that it doesn't have.
I want to thank you, Kelvin Emmanuel. Thank you for giving us insight into the conditional cash transfer. Jide, so there's still a whole lot of debates surrounding this thing.
Yes.
A lot of people are not.
We are not all going to agree.
That since it's just a plan, I believe that nothing will ease
Cast and concrete.
nothing will ease the pain of our people more than to address this high cost of transportation, because how do you even move goods and services around when the cost is so high? Many people like the UK. It's because the UK has an excellent transportation system,
the best in the world.
It is one of the things they say they are going to do.
We need to even devote our energy to that. I also do not support an idea of simply throwing money at consumption, because that's what it is.
Now he has told us that the impact is.
No, that's the truth.
Yeah,
in fact, a lot, it's because he's prone to corruption. Many Nigerians are afraid.
I think that's just the major
It
problem.
doesn't address inflation. It doesn't. You can't use it to control inflation.
That millions of people, benefited from this, but their money part is what.
Yes, people need to even be sure that, okay, this thing will get to the people who need it the most. And there is no compulsion to simply look at what the former administration did and try to repeat what the former administration did. I would be excited if we can buy like 8,000 buses, for example. 8,000 buses to share to our people, then convert them to compressed natural gas so that it will be really sustainable. Fuel prices are driving our people mad. Some people are calling me that, why don't they even devote this money to building modular refineries? Everyone is interested in what will bring down the price of fuel. And as I said earlier, this is in no way the highest that we will get to. Because the price is dependent on the price in the international market. So if it goes to, if Putin does something crazy now and it goes to 100 or 120 dollars per barrel, how much are we going to sell petrol? So let's do something that lasts. Encourage this compressed natural gas thing, so that convert vehicles to it, so that our people can buy a cheaper fuel. Move from gasoline fired buses to gas fired. It will really help our people.
All right, reaching on stretch now, due to the increasing industrialization